My, I hired a highly educated newcomer. What shall we do with the incompetence? Why did you do that without consulting me? You dislike me so much, so you took such an action. I had reached my limit and glared at manager Lisa. Don't talk back to me. Just breathing the same air as an old, useless, high school graduate like you drives me crazy. Get out of this company right now. Manager Lisa's shrill words were incomprehensible to me. I let out a big sigh. I can't work with this person anymore. Fine, I quit. I said goodbye, gathered my belongings, and left the company. 3 days later, because you drove John out, our company has incurred a $20 million loss. What? Manager Lisa tilted her head at Will, the CEO. What? What are you talking about? A $20 million deficit? There's no way that's possible. Her voice trembling. What are you talking about? What? How can that be? A $20 million loss in 3 days? You must be mistaken. Manager Lisa, increasingly flustered, let out a deep sigh. From here on, Manager Lisa was going to fall straight into hell. I am John Moore, a 61-year-old company employee. Our company manufactures plastic parts and has about 60 employees, making it a small to medium-sized enterprise. I work there as an engineer. There are many types of plastic parts, but we specialize in parts used in machines for drilling oil and gas. Therefore, unlike regular plastic parts, ours must withstand high temperatures and pressures. I joined this company right after graduating from college. The CEO of this company, Will Williams, is a friend from my college days. During college, I was more interested in enjoying my youth than studying, and I didn't take job hunting seriously at all. By the time I realized everyone else had secured jobs, I started to worry. That's when Will reached out to me. I'm going to work at my family's factory. Do you want to join me? I immediately agreed to this offer I couldn't refuse. Getting a job without job hunting and working at the same company as Will, my best friend from college, was a dream come true. Working at the same company as Will, not long after joining, Will became the CEO. Isn't the new manager starting today? This was said by Joseph Williams, another engineer working with us. Oh, that's right. Actually, our department had been without a manager for a while. I had been so busy with my engineering work that I had neglected the managerial duties. There was a suggestion to promote the next senior employee to manager. But since all of them were excellent engineers and too busy with their own work, Will decided to hire a manager from outside. The managerial job mainly involved overseeing our work, so it didn't require engineering skills. Anyone with decent experience could handle the job well. However, even when the appointed time arrived, the new manager didn't show up. As I was wondering about this, a woman entered the office 2 hours late. Is this the engineering office? It's kind of dim and has a strange smell. The person who immediately insulted our office was the new manager, Lisa Davis. She looked to be in her mid-40s. Her hair color was flashy, and from behind, she looked a bit younger. She gave the impression of wearing heavy makeup, and her perfume was overpowering. She said the office smelled strange, but to me, it was Manager Lisa's perfume that smelled strange. The dimness was due to her wearing sunglasses indoors. I thought she was quite intense. Nice to meet you. I'm John Moore, an engineer. I've been handling the manager's duties so far, so I'll brief you on the work. I extended my right hand for a handshake. However, Manager Lisa glanced at me, clicked her tongue, and sighed heavily. What's with this old guy? He looks stupid. I don't need you to teach me the manager's duties. I'll do things my way. I have a track record in big companies, so being a manager at a small company like this is a piece of cake. It was the first time in my life that someone called me stupid upon first meeting. Not knowing what to say, I withdrew my hand. Now that I'm the manager, I'm going to make a lot of changes around here. If I find anything unnecessary, I'll cut it out, so be prepared. Originally, we were supposed to hire someone who would do the minimum required work as a manager. We didn't need someone to reform the company. Unfortunately, Will was away on a long business trip, and I looked up at the sky. We might have hired quite a difficult person as the manager. From that day, Manager Lisa started changing everything, rearranging the office, changing seating arrangements, modifying the morning meetings, adding more paperwork, and so on. Each time, I was treated like her lackey, being ordered around. Even when other employees volunteered to help, she would dismiss them by saying, talented employees should do their jobs, and the incompetent ones should handle chores. It's only natural, right? John is not incompetent. Unable to stand it, Joseph confronted Manager Lisa. You're the CEO's son, right? As the future CEO, you should be careful who you defend. Just focus on your own work. She retorted, completely ignoring him. Manager Lisa moved my desk to the corner of the office and even placed trash cans around it to harass me. We need to keep the trash together, right? I thought this was going too far. But since she was performing the minimum duties of a manager, I convinced myself to endure it and said nothing. At my age, it felt wrong to bother Will with personal conflicts, so I decided to focus on my work. Just as Will was about to return from his business trip in 2 days, an incident occurred. My computer went missing. I used 3 computers, 2 desktops and 1 laptop. I had taken a personal day off yesterday. But until the day before, everything was on my desk, and the laptop was locked in a drawer. Today, all of them were gone when I came to work. The drawer's lock was broken, and the laptop was taken. As I stood there in shock, along with the other employees, Manager Lisa walked over with a fresh smile. What's everyone gathering for? My computers are all gone, I muttered, and Manager Lisa burst out laughing as if she couldn't hold it in any longer. Oh, this is hilarious. You all look like you're at a funeral. An old man's computers are just a waste of electricity. I turned around in disbelief at her words. You didn't. I thought they were in the way, so I sold them for you. Got a decent price. The dealer picked them up last night. It took me a moment to understand what she was saying. Sold my computers. The dealer took them away. What about the data on them? Don't worry, the dealer said they'd erase everything responsibly. Manager Lisa said this with a straight face, leaving me without the will to argue. My precious computers and all the data on them were gone for good. That fact couldn't be changed. Don't be so shocked. You weren't using them anyway, right? Manager Lisa laughed loudly like a witch, and the other employees could only stare at her in stunned silence. I hired a highly educated newcomer. What will you do with the incompetence? Personally, I'd like the incompetence to leave the company so that this department only has excellent employees. What was she thinking? Hiring a newcomer without consulting anyone? Just because Will was on a business trip, she was doing whatever she pleased. Why did you do that without consulting me? What about me do you dislike so much that you'd take such an action? I had reached my limit and glared at Manager Lisa. What? You got a problem? Do you understand that I'm your boss? Annoyed that I, who usually backed down, was talking back, Manager Lisa clicked her tongue and threw a water bottle at me. Don't talk back to me. Just breathing the same air as an old, useless, high school dropout like you drives me crazy. Get out of this company right now. Manager Lisa's shrill words were incomprehensible to me. I let out a big sigh. I can't work with this person anymore. Fine, I quit. I lightly smiled, gathered my belongings, and left the company. The shock of having my computers sold kept me awake that night. Manager Lisa had no idea how important the data on those computers was. Suddenly, finding myself unemployed with nothing to do, I decided to visit a soba restaurant with my wife. It's usually too crowded on weekends. I had already explained the situation to my wife, but seeing how depressed I was, she kindly avoided bringing up the topic. A few days passed, and Will must have returned by now. I knew I needed to have a serious talk with him soon, and just then I received a call from Will. Hello. John, I need to talk to you. Can you come to the office? Will's voice was more urgent than I had ever heard before. I could hear Manager Lisa's shrill voice in the background, and my head began to ache. Although I had expected this situation, the thought of seeing Manager Lisa again made me feel heavy. I let out a deep sigh and said, "Okay, I'll be right there." I started getting ready to go to the office. When I arrived, Manager Lisa was making strange, incoherent sounds, and Will was sitting at the CEO's desk with a furious expression. However, when he saw me, he looked genuinely relieved. "I'm glad you came. I was worried you might have really left our company for good." Will rushed over to me, and it seemed he had lost a bit of weight since his business trip. "I would never abandon this company, but Manager Lisa said she wanted to get rid of me, so I followed her orders." Hearing my words, Will let out a deep sigh and glared at Manager Lisa. "Now, explain yourself. Why did you sell John's computers without permission and try to kick him out of the company?" Will's voice was colder than I'd ever heard. Manager Lisa retorted, "There's nothing to explain. This useless old man was just playing around on his computers, so I sold them. At least we got some money from it." No matter how many times I hear it, her reasoning makes no sense. Of course, I wasn't playing around on the computers. My computers were high spec and probably sold for a decent amount. I didn't need to ask where the money went. It was obvious Manager Lisa spent it. Will was so angry that his teeth were chattering. "Got some money from it. Because you sold John's computers and kicked him out. Our company has suffered a $20 million loss." "What?" It seemed Will hadn't told Manager Lisa this yet, and she was stunned by his words. What? What are you talking about? A $20 million deficit? That's impossible." Manager Lisa said with a half smile, but Will's eyes were not smiling at all. "What? What do you mean? Was there important data on those computers? Even so, a $20 million loss in 3 days is impossible. You must be mistaken." Manager Lisa kept talking, but her face showed signs of panic. "Those computers had our production management system on them. John was the one controlling it. Without that system, our company can't produce anything." "You mean to tell me this old man was managing such an important system?" "Stop bad-mouthing John already." Will, reaching the limit of his patience, shouted angrily at Manager Lisa. "Why are you defending this old man? Is it because you're close in age and feel sorry for him? John developed our production management system and holds the patent. Without John, our company can't function." "What?" Manager Lisa stood in stunned silence for a moment, then began to understand the situation and looked back and forth between Will and me. "An ordinary employee developed the production management system. John is not an ordinary employee. He's the vice president." "What?" Manager Lisa blinked in confusion, unable to grasp the situation. "Vice president? I thought he was just useless. He hasn't done anything that seemed like a VP's job." When it came to choosing the vice president, it was unanimous that John should get the position. This company practically relies on John. He was a famous prodigy in college. Will and I attended a fairly well-known public university. I got into that university because my parents said I could live on my own if I attended a public university. Unlike me, the other students were motivated and had spent over 12 hours a day studying during exam periods. Their attitude towards college was very different from mine. I had been developing systems as a hobby since middle school, and by the time I entered university, I was regularly earning $10,000 a month from jobs offered by large companies. Because of that, I had no motivation to study seriously. However, passing exams without taking notes was impossible, so Will always let me copy his notes. Will was popular on campus and always surrounded by people. I was quite an outcast at university, so Will was my only friend. Before exams, Will would stay over at my place, saying he'd help me with notes in exchange for seeing my system development work. "Wow, this is amazing. Do you think I could do something like this?" Will was the only one who praised me without any ulterior motives. I doubt it, Will. You're terrible with computers. Actually, it's almost like you're allergic to them. Will was quite good at studying, but he couldn't use a computer at all. In fact, he had a peculiar condition where he would break out in hives when using a computer. After some research, we found that a few people worldwide have this rare condition. That said, not being able to use a computer in this day and age was quite a fatal flaw. From around our second year of college, Will and I were always together. "It's great being around you, John. It keeps others from coming near," he would say. It sounded like sarcasm, but it was probably Will's genuine feeling. The students who were always around him weren't really his friends. I spent all 4 years of college with Will, and after that, I joined his family's company at his invitation. I was destined to be the next CEO of this company since I was a child. I have no siblings, so it was inevitable that I would take over. But I'm hopeless with computers. Even if I took over the company, I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to manage it. Studying for over 12 hours a day during exam periods was Will's effort. He was the epitome of hard work and determination to get into college. "John, you were my idol. Some people envied you because you were smart without effort, but I only had respect for you. When you told me you hadn't secured a job, my heart jumped. Maybe you'd work with me, I thought." When I said I'd join Will's company, I remember him jumping for joy like a child. I joined Will's company on a whim, but his dad was really strict. Will's father, the previous CEO, was very tough on me after I joined the company. It's hard to believe now, but the previous CEO was merciless, not only to me but also to Will. He would physically reprimand us. I thought it was like being in the military. If it had been just me, I would have run away, but seeing Will being treated even more harshly, I felt I couldn't abandon him and endured. Moreover, the previous CEO was not only strict, but also cared for both Will and me. He was loved by the community and highly trusted by the employees. At some point, I started wanting to make this company bigger and to do anything I could for the CEO, other employees, and Will. After John joined our company, he automated almost all the tasks we used to do by hand. John, who had developed systems for large corporations, suggested we start producing the parts for oil and gas drilling machines, which are now our main products. At that time, our company only made simple plastic parts. However, that wouldn't help us grow, and we risked losing all our business to bigger companies. So, we decided to create products that only we could make. The parts for drilling machines were considered consumables back then, and were quite weak. Fortunately, we had rare equipment that other factories didn't have, and excellent technicians and craftsmen. I hardly slept, working on the development, and after a year, we produced the parts we have now. No other company could make parts of this quality, and we constantly received orders from overseas. Now, we can't make any of those parts, do you understand? With every minute we talk, the damage is growing. Will yelled at manager Lisa, his face a mix of anger and desperation. I didn't know. I already sold the computers. If it was so important, you should have told me earlier. With 3 computers on a desk, you could guess they had critical systems and data. Even if they didn't, selling someone's property without permission is a crime. I couldn't hold back any longer and shouted out my frustration. "A crime? That's an exaggeration." Manager Lisa's face twisted with tension, and her words trailed off. "Selling someone's belongings without permission is theft. Didn't you know? The day my computers were sold, I reported it to the police. Now, they're investigating the store where they were sold. Once they verify the details, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest." "What?" Manager Lisa's face turned pale. "Those computers were my personal property that I built myself. Selling them without permission is theft." "No, wait, I didn't mean it like that." Manager Lisa, half in tears, clung to me, but Joseph pulled her away. "Don't touch John with your filthy hands. Now you understand how great this man is." Joseph was just as furious as Will, and their angry faces looked remarkably alike. Oh, and be prepared to pay compensation for the damages caused. What? Manager Lisa stared blankly, her voice trembling. What are you talking about? Because you sold those computers, the production of parts has completely stopped. All the damage incurred is your fault. Isn't it obvious we'll demand compensation? Wait, there's no way I can pay that. I came to this company because I was told it would be an easy job. Oh, that was my mistake. I thought since John was so competent, anyone with decent experience could run the department smoothly. So, I told the agency anyone would do, but I never expected such an idiot to come. Will clicked his tongue in frustration. I almost want to sue that agency too. With Will in his current mood, I sighed quietly, knowing he might actually do it. Now, can you leave our company? I need to urgently restore the management system. The new computers should arrive soon, and I'll probably be staying here for a few days without sleep. I don't have time to waste talking to you. Go home and spend your time dreading how much you'll owe in damages. Even though Manager Lisa tried to get rid of me, there was no way I could be fired without Will's approval. However, I was so annoyed with Manager Lisa that I decided to stay home until Will returned from his trip. I had already emailed Will about the whole situation. Without the computers that had the system, I couldn't do much work anyway. So, I took the rare opportunity to relax for a while. Will laughed at my words. You're pretty angry, right? Of course I am. This company means everything to me. It's infuriating to see it turned upside down like this. Yeah, I feel the same way. Will let out a deep sigh and said, We will make you regret angering us for the rest of your life. He said this with the coldest expression I'd seen all day. Feeling the same way, I knew Manager Lisa's descent into hell was already assured. Hearing Will's words, Manager Lisa stood frozen, crying. After that, I hurriedly set up the newly arrived computers and began restoring the production management system. While I understood the system's workings, rebuilding it from scratch was a daunting task with no clear end in sight. Since I was the only one who could work on the system, I had to do it alone while the other employees dealt with the clients. By noon on the third day, the system was fully restored, and the production of parts resumed. Having worked non-stop to restore the system, I fell into a deep sleep once the system was up and running. Thanks to Will's efforts, we didn't lose any clients. However, failing to deliver a large quantity of scheduled parts, our company had to pay substantial damages to our clients. Will was so furious that it was a challenge to keep him from doing something to Manager Lisa. As for Manager Lisa, she was arrested for theft and is now in custody. We decided to press criminal charges, and the first trial is coming up soon. Additionally, Will hired one of the top lawyers in the country, sparing no expense. Demand an exorbitant amount in damages. I couldn't help but laugh when Will said that to the lawyer. That's not something you usually tell a lawyer. I caught a glimpse of the amount they were seeking in damages, and it was so high that it felt unreal. Regardless, Manager Lisa will now live her life branded as a criminal and burdened with paying those damages. As for me, I'm back to working hard today. Will feels responsible for what happened and keeps muttering. I thought handling both VP and manager roles along with system management was too much, so I outsourced. That was a huge mistake. Anyway, I'm thinking of passing the system management on to Joseph soon. Really? Are you serious? Yeah, is he that capable? Yes, and unlike you, he doesn't have a computer allergy. Besides, we'll retire in a few years, so it's time to start handing things over. Hearing this, Joseph called out from a distance, I'm honored. Which made me laugh. Will smiled and said, It's time for a generational change. The company we've dedicated our lives to will continue to grow and prosper,